Hi there, beautiful people. I am coming to you today to talk more about connection. Although I'm going to I'm going to talk about disconnection actually, because I think that in a way that we may be more familiar with that, right? And I've declared this the year of connection. And I have I have a lot of thoughts about connection, but specifically today talking about disconnection, talking about what some people call like a dark night of the soul, when you feel disconnected from everything, when you feel disconnected from, it may be people in your life, but you also feel disconnected from the magic of life, from the divine, from God, from, whatever gives you strength. We all have those moments where we feel like there's nobody with us, right? And that there's no one who understands, and that there's nowhere to go. And I think the first point that I want to make about that is that we're never alone. One, two, that's one thing. And I mean, you can think of it in terms of like all the bacteria on your skin, or the birds in the trees, or the plants, or, anything. We're never alone. There's stuff everywhere, right? And that's even if you don't go into like other stuff, right? And then if you have any sort of a religious belief, a lot of people also believe we're never alone, that we have, divine, we have the Holy Spirit, we have God, we have Jesus, we have the saints, we have the gods and goddesses, we have whoever we have, right? So, but I don't want to get too far down that rabbit hole. I think the most important message that I want to get across today is that we often feel like our disconnected times, our sad times, our depressed times, our difficult times, our challenging times will last forever, right? We feel like it's never going to end. It's going to last forever, and it's never going to be better, and it's never going to be good. Again, we'll never be happy, whatever. And that's not true. And if you look back in your life, you can see that that's not true, right? You can look back and you can see, oh, I can remember this time when I was really sad, I was really having a hard time, but I got through it, and good stuff has happened to me since then, right? So that's one way to deal with it, to think of it that way. And then the other thing that we do a lot, which doesn't help us in terms of our thinking and how we feel, is that when things are fun and happy and joyful and not challenging, when we feel like we've got the world on a string, we tend to think wait for the other shoe to drop, right? We tend to think, oh my God, it's not going to last. It can't possibly last, right? So think about that for a minute, right? That we assume that joy is going to end quickly, and we assume that the difficult times are going to last forever. What if we switched that? What if we tried to think like, oh, I'm just going to enjoy this joyful time now. I don't know how long it's going to last, and that's okay. It's not going to last forever, but neither is anything that's challenging. Nothing is going to last. Everything, changes constantly. And that's one of the problems that we have, right? Is that there is constant change, but it can be a good thing. When you're having a difficult time, then it can be a good thing that things are always changing, right? So, but I like to use metaphors and stories, and one that I came up with recently when I was talking to Vera, my wonderful spiritual coach. She and I were talking, and I was talking about how I've been going through, a challenging patch, and on a variety of levels. And the way that I thought about it was, in classic myth, there's the underworld, right? And this is an Egyptian myth. It's in Greek myth. It's, it transcends a lot of different religious traditions, let's say. Anyway, so if you're in the underworld, right, that's when you are feeling disconnected, when you are being challenged, right? When the flames are coming up, when you feel like you're burning, when you feel like terrible things are happening and you don't have any control, right? And the way that I think about it is that the cell service in the underworld isn't that great, right? You've got a bad connection. But it doesn't mean that you're not carrying with you the lessons that you've learned before you got to this challenging space. And I think sometimes that's where we don't help ourselves, right? Is that this isn't the first time that you've been there, right? This isn't the first time you've had a challenging time. This isn't the first difficult thing that you've faced. Well, okay, so what can you take from that? What can you look back at and say, oh, okay, I learned this lesson when I had this challenging time. I got through this, and if nothing else, it didn't last, right? At the very least, talking about earlier. So just remember that when you're walking through a difficult time, one, it's not going to last. They never do, right? Everything changes, everything shifts. Two, that when you're in the underworld, the connection maybe isn't that great, but you still have all the information from all the experiences that you had before, right? And that's an important thing to remember. And also to keep in mind that it's best to enjoy, or it would be better to really enjoy joyful moments instead of waiting for them to end, right? And expecting them to end. See how long you can play them out, Maybe they'll last longer if you're not waiting for the other shoe to drop all the time, right? Just a thought. So that's my thought for today, and I hope y'all have a great one. Ciao.